Hi guys, Aditya here. So today we are going to be talking about drag and drop events. So essentially, when I picture drag and drop, I usually picture that there are things that on one side of our window and we can just drag and drop into our shopping bucket. Right. So that is one use case that we'll be talking about today, uh, which is where drag and drop features are really used. So let's first see what we're going to develop today. So here, as you can see that this is our local website, and we can purchase these things. Actually, it has to be fruits. Just let me refresh this. I'm using an open source API, a free API, sorry, which gives images of fruits. So here you can see, right, we have some fruits, and if we want to buy this, we just drag and drop this to our shopping cart. We drag and drop this to our shopping cart. So things are being added to our shopping cart. So what are these? This is basically called drag events, right? Drag and drop events. So let us talk more about it. So to implement this, what I have done is that I have just created a kind of skeleton in other place, which has these images, and there are no activities. You see, right? I'm trying to drag this image, but it's not being dropped into my cart because that functionality is not implemented. So we'll go along that. Okay. So first things first, let's go across this HTML and whatever skeleton that we've prepared. So basically, if you see that we have these 4 divs, right? Yeah, I mean these 4 images: apple, mango, pears, and grapes. This came out well right now. So if we go back to our code, what I have created in an HTML is these are those 4 placeholders where we're keeping this image. So it is identified by different IDs and different classes. So based on different classes, I have put in different images. So basically, you can go ahead and use this API. Unsplash.com gives you random images. Since I'm passing a query called apple, it will supposedly give me the image of an apple, and similarly for mango, pear, and grapes. So we have that built into our HTML. Also, if you see, if I just open my debug tools here, if you see the arrangement of the divs, I have one parent div which is called shopping bucket. You can see, right, the dotted demarcations. So these dotted demarcations show 2 different divs. This one is the fruits div, and this one is the cart div. So we want to place 2 divs in parallel to each other, side by side of each other. So for that, I have added a class called displayFlex to the parent div. What it will do is that whatever child divs it has, it will place it next to each other, not one below each other, but next to each other. There are multiple ways to do this, but this is one of the ways I've done this. So this is what you can keep in mind while this is one CSS property that you can keep in mind. There are a lot of other ways. We could directly use tables or inline display inline block and all that, but you guys can try that. For this video, I am using displayFlex. So now, first of all, how these attributes are being draggable. Let's close this. So you see that we are able to drag these things, right? How can we achieve that? Let's go back to the code. So that is achieved by simply adding a property called draggable is equals to true. So if we add draggable is equals to true to any attribute in an HTML, it means that we'll be able to drag that. It can be an image, it can be a link, it can be text, whatever it is. So I have what I have done is that I have added draggable true to all these divs, right? Now it's not doing anything, right? It's just dragging. It's not doing anything. So now let's talk about the drag drop APIs. All right. So these are events, and we'll shortly be talking about different events that are being provided by the platform itself. There are a lot of events, okay, and we can associate these events to our DOM or to any attribute of the DOM. The events are like drag start, drag end, drag enter, drag leave, and all these things. So let's talk about it. Okay. All right. Let's see if our script is loaded. Good, it's loaded. So now let's write our events. Okay. So I'm going to write some events on the document. So event listener drag start. We can add a callback function. I mean, we should add a callback function. Here, we are just immediately writing what's inside that function, basically anonymous functions. So let's see what this event is. Okay, what this event tells us about this particular event. Also, we similarly have a drag end event. Okay, so let's see what it is. Let's refresh this. Let's get our images. Good. Okay. So these are random images, this pictures and a swoop. So let's start dragging one of them. Okay. So see, right now, what I have fired is a drag start event. How we can do that? Just left click on your mouse button and pull it wherever you want. Okay. So that is drag start. As soon as we release the button, we release the mouse button, that would be the drag leave event. Okay. So now let's leave the event. So perfect. We had put two consoles. One was drag start and one was drag end. Let's see what are inside these. So these are the properties that these events have. Okay, and we'll be using some of these properties to achieve what we initially saw. Right. So let's go inside. Okay, this source element. Okay, so what is the source element? This source element is actually the HTML that we are dragging, or the div that we are dragging. If I hover over the source element or even the target, we'll be able to see the HTML, right? So to do that, let's go back to the code. Okay, let's put a breakpoint there. No harm in putting a breakpoint, right? What is happening in script? So as soon as I start dragging it, we would not be able to even see the event, but the breakpoint will be hit. Okay, you saw that, right? The breakpoint is hit because it fires as soon as we just try to pull it out of its place. Okay, so now let's see what the event is. We already know what the event is. Let's bring the source element. Okay, got it. This is our HTML. Okay, so basically, what can we get from our source element? Or similarly, we see that we'll get that from target as well. Okay, so what are we getting here? What we are getting here is the HTML that we are trying to drag. Now we will require this HTML, right? Because when we drop it, we have to clone this HTML over there, right? So here is where we'll be able to save the HTML. Okay, save the HTML as in how can we save the HTML? Let's put a variable here, and element is equals, or ELE is equals to e dot. Let's call it source element. So now we have that in our variable ELE. Okay, so let's move further. Now, right now we do not have any utility as such for the drag end. The drag end is only serving one purpose, that it will fire the drag end event as soon as we are done with our dragging, right? So right now we don't require that, but whenever and if there is any utility where you have to fire any events on drag end, then we'll write our logic in the drag end event. Okay, now next, what is the next thing we have to do? The next thing we have to do is that, let's get rid of this. Sorry. So whenever we drag this here, first of all, let's go ahead and let's see what is happening here. So you see that, right? We are getting that border and I've not yet left dragging. So as soon as I quit dragging, we see that a clone of the element that we are dragging has been added here. Okay, so where is that being done? It's being done in the cart area, right? So this logic will be writing on our cart area. Okay, so let's call that area. The class and its cart. Since I'm using query selector, that is why I have to give dot cart so that it can distinguishly understand that we are trying to pull out a class. If it were an ID, then it would be a hash. And so yeah, the class is cart. So here we have our cart area. Now next DOM, not DOM, but next event, the DOM event handling will be writing on the cart area, because we want that to happen on the cart area, right? Not it's actually a part of the DOM, but it's good to have where we want to drop the piece that we are dragging, right? So for this, let's add an event listener called drag. Before doing anything, we will just log here whatever is happening, okay? So that we have a clear picture of what these events actually are. Similarly, we have drag enter, drag leave. Okay, we have drag over, and we finally have drop. So drop is an event is when it is fired, is that when we are dragging any element, and when we quit dragging, it means we intend to drop that element there, right? So if we write this event, if you write this event on any DOM or any attribute which is inside the DOM tree, then it will be fired. Okay, so like suppose I expect it to be fired when we drag the element and we put it into the cart area. Okay, and when we quit dragging, I expect drop event to be fired. Okay, so yeah, I think we're good. Let's see what these events are. Okay, all right, we started dragging, right? You might be confused why so many events, right? So now let me some statements here. Drag. So I'll put a statement called inside drag leave event, inside drag over event, inside drag, actually inside drop event. Cool, good. Let's go back. Let's refresh this. Right. So let's make a few more changes. Let's call it inside drag start event. Okay. Inside drag end event. Good. Let's refresh this. Okay, clearing my console. So now we are in the start event. Okay. As soon as I enter this, drag enter, you see how many times drag over is being called, right? So that's we'll be talking about drag over event. So now, since I've left that particular cart area, you know, when we enter the cart area, so if I enter the cart area again, notice drag enter. Now, since I'm on the cart area, so where I'm dragging it, so that is drag over event. And when I come outside of this div, it will fire if drag over quits logging. So I expect, yeah. So now we have that drag leave event. And as soon as I quit this, I have a drag end event. Okay. Now notice one very special thing. Let's do that again. I start dragging. Okay. So before I do this, let me explain you what I'm trying to do. I will enter the cart area, and for a very small time I'll be there. I'll not leave the cart area. I'll just try to drop it in the cart area. Okay. So I bring it here. I'm inside the drag cart area. Now I dropped it. But can you see the drop event anywhere logged here? No, it's not logged. Why it isn't logged is because of this event, because of this drag over event. So what this drag over event does intuitively is that it calls some redirections, some window redirections. So these are things that we have to bypass. Okay, and how do we bypass any intuitive event? It's simple. Event dot prevent default. My spelling is correct, right? Okay, so now I'm preventing the default behavior. Okay, now let's see. Let me refresh this. Okay, we start dragging. We're in here. Now you see, now we are able to fire the drop event, right? Okay, so now notice that once I'm dragging anything here, let me refresh this. Once I'm dragging anything here, I'm able to see that boundary, right? So if you guess, take a second and guess, when do we want to see this boundary? We want to see this boundary when the drag enter event is fired, right? Into this area. Then we have to fire this, and once we leave this, then it should not show the boundary anymore, right? So let's write that on our drag enter and drag leave. What do we want to do? I have a class that I've added, which is called show border. So I'm simply adding to the DOMs class, right? I mean to that particular attributes class list. How can we do that is, this is the drag enter, right? Cart area dot class list dot add show border. Good. And this, we should remove this as soon as we leave the draggable area. Leave the cart area. Okay. If we leave the cart area, or if we drop into the cart area, right? So we do this here as well. Cool. So let's see that in action. Okay. So you notice that, right? Drop it here. Now, what hasn't happened is that when we are dropping it here, it is not actually getting dropped, right? So for that, what do we have to do? We just have to write an event which will now we'll be using our variable ELE that we have been stored all this while when we started the drag event. Okay, now we'll be using it so that we can just append this HTML, right? Append child. Okay, now I think we'll be able to see it being dropped into that particular area. So now let's start the drag event, bring it here. Okay, now notice one thing, that the apples have actually come from the left pane to the right pane. We don't actually want that. We want to replicate it, right? So if we keep adding it here, then the suggestions or the list will be lost. We don't want that, right? So to avoid that, it's a very small thing that we need to do here, that we want to clone this node. We want to make a copy of this node. We don't want to drag the we don't want to bring the original HTML and place it here. We just want a replica of that here. So let's Let's refresh this. Good. Let's see this now. Right? So it's cool. Right? I don't know why that water thing is not working. It was working. So this is how we play with the drag and drop events. Now we can do a lot more things, if you picture it as a shopping cart, we can add a cross button here. If we hit that cross button, we want to lose this node. We want to lose this particular item from our shopping cart. But those are things which are not readily associated with drag and drop. If you want to enhance this out, you can just drag this out of a shopping cart, and you can lose this particular HTML. But all these things, I think you can try that on your own. So this is all about drag and drop events and how it actually happens. So let me know what you think about this, and if you have any questions, please leave down in the comment sections. As always, I'll leave the code. I'll leave the Git URL to the code. So thank you so much, and don't forget to try this and stay safe. Thanks.